Thank you for listening to this training audio. We hope it inspires and equips you. This recording is by Lucy Moore, titled How a Successful Partnership Between Church, School and Home Can Encourage and Nurture Christian Faith in Children, from the In Your Hands Children's Ministry Conference on the 25th of February 2023.
It's lovely to be here and really nice passing the signs on the way up to places like Southport, because my grandparents, one set of grandparents was in Southport and the other was in Cleveleys. So it feels a bit like coming back to my childhood, coming to this part of the world. Well, this morning, where are we going in this hour? It's a bit fatal to have a conference with such an interesting title. And this little phrase, in your hands, it's a really cracking title. I don't know if you thought about it much. Obviously, the people who were here last night spent some time thinking about it. But I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, I have to admit, when I was thinking about this morning. And thinking, gosh, what a loaded phrase this is. What on earth does it mean? And so I thought, while Sarah's asked me to talk about the Growing Faith Foundation, which I will, then I thought it would be first just worth thinking a little bit more about what this amazing phrase means for us in our ministry with children and young people, and for children and young people in their ministry to us and to the world around them. And I think it's been a very weird couple of years, if I'm honest, for me. It's been a very strange time. I thought I was sitting with Messy Church for the rest of my life. I thought that was where God would want me to be. And just what it felt, I'm sure it wasn't for God, but for me, it was kind of out of the blue comes this whole new change of direction. And we moved house as well from Hampshire up to the Peak District. Lots of new things. And one of those new things, which has been really joyful, was that in July, into our hands was placed a little Ukrainian family. And we're hosting this little family from Ukraine. And I will never forget the day they arrived. They've been travelling over from Poland. And we just got sporadic messages saying, yes, we're still in Poland. Yes, it might be 15 hours on, but we're still in Poland. The bus is trundling across Europe. And there was this moment when they'd arrived. And the reason, I saw them out of our landing window. And there was this couple standing on our drive, looking at the view. We've got a very nice view across the Hope Valley. And they were just standing on the driveway with these enormous suitcases. A big builder bloke, who's the husband, and this very, very pregnant wife, just standing, abandoned by their bus, just dropped into our hands, almost literally. And then when the baby was born a couple of weeks later, just being able to hold her. And probably most of us in this room have at one time held a baby, even someone else's baby, perhaps a grandchild or someone from church's baby. And that feeling of having something incredibly precious and fragile and vulnerable placed in our hands was just, it's cracking stuff, really, isn't it? And it just made me think about lots and lots of things. But we'll get onto those in a minute. But just turn to the people that you're sitting with. And when have you ever had a feeling of being placed in someone else's hands. It might be a really positive time. It might be a really negative one. So you might not want to share too much about it if it's a really sensitive thing. But when have you had that feeling of either being placed in someone else's hands or someone being placed in your hands? Just 2 minutes to chat with the people on your table. Great, thank you very much. Just keep in mind some of the emotions that those feelings of either having someone else in your hands or being put in somebody else's hands came up in those conversations. I was thinking the John 6 passage was really, really good about having something in your hands to share. That's really good, the boy with the loaves and fishes. I was actually thinking about the prodigal son when I was thinking about this, and thinking about the kind of dynamic way that God fills up our hands and empties our hands, and fills up our hands and empties our hands, and how we in turn can live that out. And you'll know the story back to front better than I do, but that lovely way that the father almost, well, it feels kind of unthinkingly, but it can't have been. He hands over half the wealth of the farm to his younger boy, and puts that wealth, those resources, that wonderful kind of fullness, that investment into the hands of his son. And what does the son do? He goes off and wastes it all, and ends up with the pigs, and then goes back to his father. Has this wonderful moment of, oh, what have I done? What an idiot I've been. What can I do? I know I'll go back to Dad and maybe I'll be allowed to muck out the cows on the farm. It's that sort of feeling. And he goes back, and there's that wonderful bit of the father running out from the farm towards his son. So he doesn't even wait for his son to come to him. He runs out towards his son and throws his arms around him, and this little prepared speech that the son has, he can hardly get it out because the father's so busy saying to him, look, I'm just so chuffed that you're back. Let's get you some decent clothes. Let's stick a ring on your finger. You know, this isn't half-hearted. This is just, we're just so pleased that you're back. Let's take it from here. And this beautiful picture, which you will know from Rembrandt, shows this moment gorgeously of the son coming back with one of his shoes has fallen off, and he's just a total mess. And the father's putting his arms around him. The son is putting himself into the hands of the father. And I've often thought about how generous the father is and how forgiving the father is. I wonder what it took for the son to put himself back in his father's hands. And I wonder if, about that older son, if the older son, I don't know, if the father had been more like the older son, would the younger son have been able to come back and give himself back to the right way of living? I don't know. But the other interesting thing is, look at the hands, the way Rembrandt's painted them. If I was painting them, which is a very good job that I'm not, because I can't paint, but if I was painting that moment, I think I would be tempted to do a kind of a big bear hug of, kind of complete intimacy and hanging on to the boy and, just, oh. But look at the hands there. What do those say to you? Because to me, that looks like a very light touch on the shoulder. It is, isn't it? But, yeah, distant. And I wonder if it is distant, if it's a sort of, I mean, it could be just, oh, you smell. But I wonder whether it is a distance or whether Rembrandt was trying to say something about God's relationship with people and trying to say, yes, you come back into the loving embrace of God to be sent out again. And it's not that kind of, I've got you and you're going to stay safe and you're going to stay in the church, nice and cozy and in the place you've always been, in the job you've always been, with the people that you've always been with. It's going to be nice and cozy from now on, my friend. Whether it's much more of a, I'm glad you're back. It's wonderful that you're back. This is where you need to be. And now you're going to go off and do the next thing. And whether that son actually got the next lot of money and wasted that as well, which he probably did, bless him, and was welcomed back again and again. But what an amazing thing, being in your hands. And it's, I think, one of the reasons that the story of the prodigal son resonates so much is because there are so many kind of threads from the whole Bible that come through. That little phrase, in your hands or into your hands, comes in such significant places. You've got, I suppose you've got the creation story in the first place of the world being put into the hands of human beings, but it's actually explicit at the end of Noah's story, that, you know, God blessed Noah and his sons, saying, go be fruitful, all the beasts, the birds, every creature that moves, all the fish, they are given into your hands. And again, this feeling of, I'm going to give you huge abundance, huge authority, huge responsibility with the world that we're in. And as we go into the rest of today and hear some of the practical outpourings of what that means to be responsible stewards of the world, and we'll be getting loads of ideas from the other speakers about what that actually might look like as we work with children and as we give space for children to shape the world that they want it to be. Because I suspect that, I know, they have much better ideas about this than a lot of us adults. So that stewardship idea. There's also the really, really poignant way that in your hands means something about vulnerability and the power that we have over someone more fragile than ourselves. And there's that absolutely appalling story, or the bit of Abraham's story, which is just, you know, you just read it and you're cringing and say, no, let's take this back and start again, because it's not what I want my heroes of faith to be like. Thank you very much. But if you remember that moment where Sarah and Abraham are trying for a baby and they can't have one, and then Sarah encourages Abraham to sleep with the concubine Hagar, who gets pregnant, and she starts lording it over Sarah, and Sarah complains to Abraham, and Abraham says, your slave is in your hands, do with her whatever you think best. And what Sarah thinks best is to abuse her and throw her out. And that's how Hagar ends up in the middle of the desert, desperate for death, pregnant and desperate for death. So that huge, that responsibility for other people is not something to take lightly. And I think it's good just to remember what a privilege it is for all of us to work with the children that we work with, this vulnerable group of people who God's placed into our hands to do what we think best. He's trusted us with something very, very precious to him. And just to remember that occasionally is no bad thing, especially when you've got that really annoying one on a Sunday morning. So just remembering that vulnerability. And I think, again, that phrase, in your hands, it comes with that amazing bit at the end of Jesus' life, where his last words are, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, when he dies on the cross. And so what's that all about? I'm placing myself completely into your hands, not just in a little moment of my life, but at this crucial moment of the cosmos. Jesus commits his spirit into his loving Father's hands. It's a really powerful phrase, and I don't know how you came up with it, Sarah, but hurrah that you did, because what an amazing thing to meditate on and to think. So shall we just pause for a moment, and if you'd like to, just hold your hands as if you're receiving something or holding something, and I'll just say a little prayer. Lord, we do thank you for placing those children that we know into our hands. Thank you that we are in your hands. Thank you that they are in your hands. And we pray today that you will help us to treasure them, to steward what they bring, to help us work together to change the world that you've put into all our hands. In Jesus' name, amen. Yeah, so it's I think it links, because what we're trying to do, what we're thinking about today, is making a difference and changing the world, that we're helping work with God to transform the world. And perhaps the best place to do that from is in God's hands. If we are safe and secure in God's hands, and our children are safe and secure in God's hands and in our hands, then what an amazing safe base for transformation to come in. Well, so growing faith. What is it? Growing faith is about changing the culture of the Church of England. We did that in our first year, and now we're on to the next thing. We are about culture change, which is a really exciting thing, and a completely impossible target, and so impossible that it's actually quite funny. But I think very realizable. I said to my team when our team got together for the first time, I said, do you really think we can do this? I mean, not just us, but across the Church of England. Can we change the culture of the Church of England so that everyone puts children and young people at the heart of all that we do? Can we do this? Do you really think so? And they looked at me and they said, yes, we can. Yes, we can. So I have huge faith in the people that I work with and in the God in whose hands I am, that the impossible can be made possible. At the moment, I think what we've got is possibly I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but what we've got in a lot of churches is a situation where, yes, we pay lip service to children. We say children are important, but actually what we're really interested in is the adults, and the children can be tacked on at the end. We can do what we're really interested in is getting our preaching right, or getting our mass right, or our Eucharist right for our adults, and the children they'll learn how to join in one day when they're ready. And what we're trying to do is change that culture so that everybody is saying, children are equal disciples with us. They're not better than us. They're not worse than us. They are equal disciples with us. It is as much their church as our church. In fact, it's God's church anyway, so what's going on there? But they are equal disciples with us, and we need to use our power that we've got for what's been placed in our hands to make this a space where everybody can flourish, including the children. So the way we're going about it is with churches, schools, and households all working together. So it's this loopy diagram, this Venn diagram, pops up all the time. And quite often in the past, a lot of us, with honourable exceptions, have been really good about the church bit of this, and said, we will invest our all in children's work in churches, which is great. And it's a kind of even better if scenario. If we say, well, what if we worked with the school? What if we worked with the families? How much better would that be? So this is a three-way thing of the parts of a child's life where, if those three areas work together well, then the research suggests that children's spirituality has the best chance of flourishing. So more of that later. Why do we need a change of culture? Well, however you look at the statistics, they're not happy, really. I don't want to get too tied up with stats, because basically we can make them say whatever we want them to say. But however you look at the statistics, the stats for mission that all the vicars collect, it's all a bit depressing, if we're honest, at the moment. Even allowing for the pandemic, it's not a good trajectory. So I think we've got a choice, really. We're at one of those moments in life where we've got a choice. Either we can stay in our churches and sort of bewail the fact that we have no children, or we could say, well, in the school down the road, perhaps even in the Church of England school down the road, the Church of England school down the road, there are lots of children. And in Church of England schools all over the country, apparently there are about 1 million children being educated in Church of England schools. So a phenomenal number of children. Now, so instead of sitting on our backsides in our churches, why don't we get off our backsides and go out to where the children are, instead of mourning about the fact that, why are they no longer in church? When I was running the Sunday school in 1939, there were 3,000. We've all heard that. We've all heard that. And it's very debilitating. Well, I think now is a really good time to think. It's not doing a new thing. It's often described as a lens through which to see what you're doing. So growing faith is much more of a lens rather than stuff everything that you've been doing up to now. It's all been useless. Start a new thing. Start this growing faith thing. It's not that at all. It's, why not look at what you're doing through a growing faith lens and see if this could help you serve the children that you're working with even better than you're doing already. So, what are we trying to do? Well, one of the things we're trying to do is to bring the voices of children and young people into everything. And it's really hard because alongside all this sort of movement for hearing the voice of children and young people has come rightly lots of safeguarding issues and data protection issues. And so bringing the voice of children and young people safely into our presentations like this today and into our churches is not as straightforward as it would have been when we just have happily put up pictures of anybody without their permission. Those days are gone, and it's a good thing. But we do try and bring the voice of children and young people in. And one of the things we're trying to do is to think about, well, how can we help children and young people shape the church that they want the church to be, shape the church into the church that they need it to be, if it's their church as much as ours. And these thoughts come from the National Younger Leadership Groups. And you'll see from the word cloud some of the values that they've named as being most important to them for a church. I don't know if you think those are predictable, surprising, whether if we'd got a bunch of adults, whether they'd have come up with the same things. And then in the other side, I just listed a page from the report of where they talked about the kind of church I would like to see. And one of the interesting, there are lots of different thoughts there, but one thread that comes through is in that line in bold. The church I would like to see is one that makes the earth a better place. And that kind of ties into what today is all about, that stewardship of the earth that's been put into our hands, the different ways that we can enable children to make the change, to be the change, rather than saying, oh, wait till you're grown up and then it can all happen. But anyway, bit of their voice in an unhelpful way. We have a dream. We do have a vision for this. We really would love to see churches, schools and households working together, bringing together the language that they use, bringing together some of the practices. It can be really, really simple ways. For example, one vicar down in Guildford, he came to a church a few years ago which had no children at all, and so he started building up the families in the parish, and they started coming along to the Sunday services, and he's also gone into the school very, very regularly, and the songs that they sing in school collective worship, he makes sure that they sing on a Sunday in church. It's as simple as that. This is not rocket science. It's a little bit like the church saying, oh, we don't have all the answers. Schools, could we learn some of the answers from the way you do it? It's that sort of humility that is important. So this is the research, a little summary of the research that this comes from. The idea of the church, home and school working together is based on research from the National Institute for Christian Education Research, which is available for free online, very easy to find. Just Google Faith in the Nexus and you'll find it. And they've come up with beautiful little animations to present their findings. And they come down really, really clearly on the fact that where church and home and school work together, then children's spirituality has the best chance of flourishing. And these are some of the things that they highlight. Strong relationship between the church and the school. It's all about relationships, really, isn't it? Positive relationships between church and school are characterized by invitational worship, celebration of festivals, the minister's presence, not necessarily the ordained minister, and a sense of belonging and connection to the church community and building. And just on that front, that's really interesting, because some work has been going on around researching growing faith in Guildford Diocese again. And one thing that they found really loud and clear is how children voice a real sense of the place they feel close to God is in the church building. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it's not the only place, but it comes across as a very clear thread that the church building is important to them for feeling close to God. That's interesting, isn't it? And quite reassuring. It's nice. So, there we go. There is loads more in the Faith in the Nexus stuff if you're interested in it. Do look it up. Really good stuff. Have a chat with the people on your table. Just take that little chunk from the middle. Positive relationships between church and school are characterized by invitational worship, the celebration of festivals, the minister's presence, and a sense of belonging and connection to the church community and building. And just have a chat about the two questions at the bottom. Where do you see any of these happening well in your context or elsewhere in the diocese? Can you point anyone on your table to something that's happening just up the road? Would there be anything else from your experience that you would add to that list of a positive relationship between church and school? Is there anything they've missed off? So have 2 or 3 minutes around the tables. Okay, super, thank you. So, for some people, this is a kind of no-brainer, and for church and school and families to work together, it's just kind of, well, yes, we've always done that, and why wouldn't we? And for other people, it's quite a big step to think, I'm a church children's minister. I'm just about church, aren't I? What's going on? So for the people who aren't at that, who are at that sort of the latter rather than the former, today is just a bit of space to introduce the idea and see how it might bed in a little bit for you. So, thinking a little bit about what influences young people about the way that they think about faith or religion. This was a survey that was done, I think Ben would know better than I do, 11 to 16-year-olds a few years ago. But isn't it interesting, the influences on the way that those young people said that who influenced them in what they thought about faith and religion? Family, huge. 73% of them said family were the major influence on the way they think about faith. And that's why we're really saying, let's work with the families as well as the children. This isn't about children in isolation. This is children in the context of their families. It was always very dear to us in Messy Church, and it was a very important part of saying the family is a key player in the faith development of a child. It's no good it's sort of shooting yourself in the foot if a child has a wonderful experience in the church and comes close to God, but then goes back to a family where they're not sympathetic to the things of God. And that level of influence might mean that all your good work is dissolved. But where the family's on board, hurrah, how exciting. But the interesting thing on this other slide is that friends are the next biggest area. Okay, I think I would have expected that. I wouldn't have expected the teachers to be as influential as friends. Does that surprise you as well? No. Ah, okay.
Teacher was very influential.
So teachers very influential for you. Yeah. Well worth thinking about how influential teachers evidently are on the life of our young people, and what can we do as a church to support those teachers in their frontline ministry with children and young people every single day for the whole working day? Can we support them? Can we pray for them? Can we recognize their ministry and their calling into this? Can we cheer on our governors and our head teachers? Can we support them? Can we ask them what they need in their ministry so that we're all working towards the spiritual flourishing of our children? Because teachers play a key role in this. Very, very interesting. And just another bit of research which you might find interesting, just to know it exists, is the wonderful Sarah Holmes from Liverpool has played a big part in this. It's the Multinational Children's Report, and it was looking at how faith looked coming out of the pandemic and what people's experiences of what children's experience of faith was coming out of the pandemic. So it's very, very recent. 2021, gosh, doesn't time fly? 2021, that's not that recent, is it? Oh, it just feels like yesterday. But this research is not terribly long, but just a couple of chunks of it there. To paraphrase it, what they found was that churches over the pandemic were quite critical of parents and sort of threw resources at parents and, again, paraphrasing, basically thought parents weren't doing a very good job of the faith nurture of their children during the pandemic, whereas parents said, the churches threw resources at us, but what we actually wanted and needed was support. We just wanted relationship, and we didn't get that from our churches. We needed the kind of human support rather than things being thrown at us. So just want to remember that all of this stuff about being in your hand, it's about relationship. It's this. Instead of being content-driven, there's a need for greater relational connection. And if you're ever wondering whether to invest in a bright, shiny new program or putting your time into friendships and building up relationships, just to bear that in mind. And across different generations was something that was highlighted as well. This intergenerational church, intergenerational or wraparound care seems to be really one of the things that's coming out of the research that's going on at the moment. Let's hop over this one as time is moving on. So, again, another word cloud from the young people, which I thought was quite funny, actually, because this came out of a session that they were doing about change and managing change. And they've been doing something about salt and light, Jesus' words about salt and light. And we asked them to give us examples of why the world might be uncomfortable with change. And I think actually those young people have put their fingers pretty convincingly on some of the issues that a lot of us have when we're thinking about change in church. I love the fact that stubborn is like the biggest thing. We've always done it like this, why would we change? But it also highlights quite a lot about being scared. And I think when we've lived through so much fear over the last few years, and we're surrounded with a lot of fear, I think there is something they've put their finger on about when we're afraid, it's really hard to change and to allow others to change. And again, that's worth thinking about what you can provide in your ministry, about in your hands is about providing that place of safety where risk and change can happen. Change. I think we are at a kairos moment. I'm very fond of this term because and I think this picture is actually quite a good one for it. Kairos is that sort of God saying, use it or lose it. It's as if, that God opens a door at certain points in history and geography and says, I offer you opportunities. Would you like to take them? Yes. Do step through the door. No, that's fine. Move on. There'll be another door sometime. But I think we've been given a kairos moment in this decade. I don't know how long it'll be. But at this moment, I think we're in a bit of a kairos moment of a use it or lose it. Stepping into, I don't know if you'd call them the corridors of power. I don't know what they are in the Church of England. But setting cynicism aside, what I have heard and seen as I've moved in these slightly different circles in the national church, has been absolute passion for growing younger and more diverse as a church. People in the national church are absolutely sold out on the fact that we need to be younger as a church. We need to take the whole area of children's and youth ministry really seriously. We need to invest in it more. There's a huge awareness of the shortcomings of the way that we've treated children and youth leaders, the way that we've missed children off the scenario completely. And there's a real goodwill, and more than that. I mean, there's the money as well as the goodwill to do something about this. And I can see some of you looking very cynical about this, but I would say that now is a really, really good time if you're wanting to invest in children and youth. Now is a good time to put your head above the parapet and say, we really, really want to do this. How do we do it? What resources are available? Where can we tap into this? Because they will be coming out. So, I mean, I can't make there are no promises to make. All I'm saying is that the climate is there at the moment. The willingness is there. There are an awful lot of people wanting to open the treasure chests of the Church of England and invest in this area. So if you're thinking about something as a church or as a diocese, now would be a really good time to make it happen. So where does Growing Faith fit into this? Well, the Growing Faith movement has been happening for a few years. Since 2019, there was a paper at Synod, which everybody, of course, it's young people. Of course, everyone, yes, we really agree with this. Oh, yes, absolutely good idea. We'll all vote for that because it makes no difference whatsoever, and it's young people who are very good. So everyone voted this paper through. But actually, it's got some really cracking things in. And one of the things was that the Growing Faith Foundation could be born with this remit for helping churches, homes and schools to work together. And this is what the Growing Faith Foundation has been tasked with and what we're doing over the next few years. So hubs and networks, research, programs, and more recently, and rather terrifyingly, church in school. So you won't be able to see that, but this does exist, and your diocesan champions can give you this information if you need it. But just to run through quickly, we've got the chance to run 12 hubs, which are kind of centres of experimentation. It's this idea that we've got the chance to encourage some local communities to take risks and just go a bit further than they would do otherwise in the area of church, home and school working together. So we've selected 12 different sorts of communities, from a local church through to a theological college, through to a bunch of youth workers working together, through to 2 dioceses getting together through their Board of Education. It's a whole range of different communities trying their best to see, how can we make the Growing Faith stuff have flesh? What does it look like when we do this? What would it look like if we took a few risks with it? And so that's exciting. Those are just starting off. The first 4 are just getting going. The research is exciting, and I've rather squiggily looped the one that's happening in your diocese, which Sarah is involved with. Hooray! Sarah, would you like to say something about that? Just landing you in it. Okay, brilliant. Oh, she sprints to the front. Well done, Sarah. Very good, very good.
Yeah, so rather excitingly, myself and Ali Campbell, who is a children youth consultant in this diocese, applied for some funding from the Growing Faith Foundation back in the summer last year, and we got word that we had been allocated some of that funding to do a piece of research on faith in transition. Now, if you were here at the conference last year, you will remember that we were talking about a project called Levelling Up, where we were looking at children's transition from primary school up to high school and how we can support them in our churches, how we can support parents with that transition, and how we can support the schools to help the young people journey through that time of transition as well. And to be honest, we sort of set off on this journey. We were talking to some churches, and then all of a sudden, the opportunity to do this piece of research came along. So we've been talking to children in lots of primary schools and some high schools too, to gather some information about their experiences in terms of their transition and what their faith has looked like as well whilst they've journeyed through that process. And we've got lots of really interesting and exciting findings starting to come out of that, which we're just gathering together. And we hope that the research will be finalised around about Easter time, and then we'll have some findings to share with you. And out of that, we hope will come some good practices and some resources maybe to help support you. So that's where that sort of levelling up project that we talked about last year has gone to. It hasn't disappeared. And we hope that the findings from this research can be shared, not just in our diocese, but with the whole country nationally as well. So it's really exciting.
Thank you very much. Sorry to put you on the spot there. It's just, you can talk about it so much better than I can. So lots of research projects going on, 13 research projects to inform what we're doing and again, put a shape on the ideas. The networks are open to anyone to join up with. So Hannah is running those. You can see some of the titles up there. And the programs are trying to put in place some of the missing pieces where we want to train up our children's and youth ministers. And so Stephen's been working on the Strategic Leaders Programme most recently. So those are what we're doing at the moment. We've recently been given a brief to start churches in schools, which is kind of, 450 churches in schools. All right, that's going to happen overnight, isn't it? Oh, so this is the sort of thing that could not have happened a year ago. and is happening now. God's opening some doors for exciting things like that to happen. So watch this space. You'll have to last without the donuts, I'm afraid, because all these wonderful stories of what it looks like in practice, we don't quite have time for. Worth just looking at that. So this is about dreaming dreams. This is about people of vision and imagination. If we had time, we would chew these over a little bit, but some of those questions are worth thinking about, worth cogitating. What if your local church's centre of gravity was in the school rather than in the church building? What would be the problem? What would be the joy? Would it work? How does that work? And other questions as well. We need the dreamers. And so just finishing up with this rather quirky depiction of the supper on the road to Emmaus. Really because I wanted to wind up with the feeling of being in your hands again. And perhaps where we see that week by week or month by month most poignantly is having something very, very precious placed in our hands that enables us and expects us to go back out into the world and make a difference. Like those Emmaus Road disciples, that bread was placed into their hands. That's when they recognized Jesus when he vanished, which I think was most inconsiderate. And then they ran all the way back to Jerusalem to share the good news that he was alive again. What an amazing catalyst for action. So I leave that with you. It's all in your hands. The great thing about the Growing Faith Foundation is that it really can do nothing very much at all. What we do try and do is to support you in the parishes to do what you do and give you a framework, if that's helpful, to tell your story where we can, and to pray for you and cheer you on. So it is in your hands. I will shut up. Thank you, Sarah.
We hope that you've enjoyed this talk. A video version of this talk is also available on our YouTube channel at Train, Equip, Inspire. For more resources and training, please visit our resource area on bdeducation.org.uk.